It is a growing divide in the labor market. Boomers holding on to their jobs longer, leaving little room left at the conference table for poor Gen Z. New data showing that hiring for workers 25 and under, it's actually down more than 45% since 2019. But for those 65 and older, it's up 80%. Companies say they want day one ready workers. That means, well, less training and fewer entry-level opportunities for young Americans.
I'm turning 64.
Jackie, day one ready. I like that. I like that boomers are back. We'll talk about how sad we feel for Gen Z later. Your thoughts?
Okay, so on the boomer angle, I think this is a function of that we're living better as Americans. We're living longer. We're living healthier. Yeah. Most boomers that I know are not working because they can't retire. That's part of the narrative. I'm sure there are people out there that fit that description. Most of the boomers I know don't know what they would do if they did retire.
Who do you know who's a boomer?
My parents.
Many people's parents and you. I think most people feel very vibrant at 64, as Charlie will evidence. He not only works here and writes for the Post, he's at the gym every morning. You're doing pull-ups, you're doing sprints outside.
Geritol works.
My point is, people are more energetic. They like making money. If they can stay in their job and be engaged with others, that's a positive thing for them. You know, there are studies that show when people retire or retire too early, they get depressed, they start to slow down because they don't know what to do with themselves after working so long.
All right, guys,
turning to me?
No.
Weigh in.
Well, I am turning 64 soon.
Any plans to retire?
No.
No, I'm going to Davos next week, celebrating. Actually, I'm going for the World Economic Forum. But here's what I would say. There is something to be said for competence. And I'm not saying I'm not going to paint all Gen Zers and millennials with a broad brush. Or kind of going to do this. But one of the good things about being a boomer is that we benefited from a very good education system. The schools, were yet to turn woke. We actually learned a lot of stuff. We actually were forced to write coherently and have some, even if you were, in my case, my brother's the flip side, liberal arts. My brother was math. He became a doctor. He's a PhD and an MD. I became a lowly journalist, ink-stained wretch. But I had to know I had to know some math. Like, I took a lot of upper-level math, took a ton of econ. He had to learn some English. He had to learn how to write, which he does. The Gen Zers, they don't have that. They take Africana studies, gender studies. They don't have the basics, and it shows. And that's why boomers are, and you're never going to get rid of me. You're going to have to kill me.
So, Brian or Lydia, are you going to come to the defense of Gen Z? Is this actually sort of unfortunate because they're not getting that learning opportunity because the boomer maybe is taking the job?
Well, you know,
boomers better at the job.
You know what I agree with? I totally agree with Charlie that I think boomers got a good education and they've added a ton of value and they know a lot. They're great mentors for Gen Z. But, you know, there are a lot of boomers who helped create the educational system that has really screwed up Gen Z. That's one of the problems is you guys inherited a good thing and most of you appreciated that, but some of you said, let's screw it up for the next guys. And so I do think Gen Z's
let's
got
face
a little bit of
it. I mean, listen, boomers came up with cultural Marxism, not some millennial, right? So, but that's a very, very small percentage, and it infiltrated the school systems and, you know, the up and down, and it's actually filtered into like high school and grade school. But it's like that much, but it caused that much damage. So I think that's one of the issues.
I mean, my last point is, though, I do not like class or age group warfare kind of stuff. And I think so many of these stories are written to make Gen Z say, well, you should blame the boomers and you should have a grievance against them and they're against you and they're clogging up the system. You know, I call bunk on that. That's not true. That's a lefty, cultural Marxist kind of thing to do.
I agree.
And I think the generations can work together because one has the experience and the mentorship and the other has the desire.
Although I do see
Lydia, jump in.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm glad that you said that because I didn't like how it was pitting the Gen Z against the boomers. I'm happy for the boomers that they have a place in the workforce. That's really important because we need them and we need their wisdom and their guidance. The other thing I would say is that it is never easy It is never easy graduating from whatever, college, high school, and getting your first couple of jobs. When I was finishing law school, or actually when I was in the midst, we were starting the financial crisis. And I remember friends of mine who had secured summer associate jobs or even first offers right out of law school, they were being rescinded because the economic outlook was so uncertain, and these huge law firms were just not sure if they're going to have the work to employ all of us. And a lot of us had to get scrappy. You had to pound the pavement again. You had to stay committed and find a job and get a foot in the door, and you had to become adaptable. And that's what I like some of these CEOs talking about this trend right now. Jamie Dimon, hey, young people, focus on the skills that are needed, not on the, women's lit studies or art history studies. McDonald's, take responsibility for your own growth. No one's going to just hand this to you on a silver platter. You got to get in there and you got to figure out how to make yourself needed and how you can be of service. LinkedIn CEO, be adaptable and get rid of the 5-year plan. That is so important. And I hate to say it, and I think some of this is probably AI.
I was just going to say that.
And I hate to acknowledge that. Because AI is making us more efficient. It's making some of us, not needed in the same capacity. It's changing the workforce, and maybe those entry-level jobs are just going to become fewer and far between. That doesn't mean to demonize AI, but we're just going to have to be adaptable and figure out where those entry-level jobs.
I was looking at adaptable in a different way, actually, but also thinking about AI. The adaptability to me that those CEOs are championing there is saying to the worker, you better get on board the AI train, learn how to use it, learn how to make your job yourself more valuable. For example, boomers, many of them, not you, have a hard time with technology. So,
how do I do Google?
And these kids might not have necessarily learned the mechanics of AI and how it can apply to a role, but you better learn it if you want to,
The Google.
keep the
Gotta
Google
Google.
machine.
Got to learn to.
Let's go from the Google to the Spotify. Pop quiz, who is a subscriber to Spotify?
Oh, big time.
I
The
failed
boomer
this.
is.
I failed
User,
this
not
last time.
subscriber.
I'm both a
User
subscriber
with ads.
and my risk and return podcast is on Spotify.
Okay, so question, how do you feel about increasing the price of the premium subscription by $1 up to $12.99 from $11.99 a month after already raising those prices in 2024 and in 2023?
I mean, Trump had better cap the fees on this stuff.
Ooh.
I mean, this is going to destroy America.
Spotify?
Do you think he needs congressional approval to cap the fees? On
See,
Spotify?
Charlie, that's what I'm saying. $12.99. What do you get for a premium subscription?
I don't.
You get risk and
Probably
return with
ad-free.
me and Bob Sloan. That's what
You know
get.
what, Brian? This is fun. Last fall, they launched 30 product updates. One of those include a lossless audio and playlist mixing, where you can add transitions and match tempos in between songs. DJ.
I don't get it.
By the way, that's
It's a-
Spotify or iTunes?
And
This is Spotify.
Yeah.
Okay, they do songs on Spotify? I guess they do.
Charlie.
We're moving.